The WWE 2K series has been going through some pretty rough times as of late, with the monumental failure that was its latest entry, WWE 2K20. Both consumer and industry support is at an all-time low, and there are many reasons to think that the series may already be past the point of saving. We certainly hope that this isn't the case and that they can bounce back, because God knows we all want a good WWE game. We're not so confident that will happen anymore, at least not with Visual Concepts continuing at the helm. Join us now as we break down the details of the story and take a look at some of the evidence to suggest this may sadly be the end for the WWE 2K series as we know it. It was all going so well, for a while at least, and while not every entry received stellar reviews, the WWE 2K series generally sold a lot and played well enough. Yes, there were always complaints about the lack of innovation or the increasingly small amount of differences between editions, but fans generally ignored this as a whole because it was a well-licensed and competently made series for the most part. However, the first real cracks in its armor appeared when longtime developer Yuke's decided to part ways with the WWE last year, ending a 20-year partnership in the process. There was plenty of speculation at the time as to why this happened, with it eventually being revealed that Yuke's had been keen to take the series in a different direction in order to freshen it up and stop any damage to their own brand, as sales had been slowly decreasing since 2K15's release. Yuke's senior vice president and producer Hiromi Furuta went on record as saying, "We are aware that our creators are beginning to lose sight of their passion and confidence and becoming focused only on completing assigned tasks. That's not the direction Yuke's wants to go in. Right now, looking at the market demands, players are expecting something new every time we release a game, and we feel like we haven't achieved what we really wanted to do." Based on this, it's pretty evident that Yuke's were tired of shortchanging fans with the same old game every year and had clearly lost their passion for it. WWE meanwhile saw the series as a reliable cash cow and didn't appear to want to mess with the formula lest it cost some more sales. After parting ways, Yuke's would go on to announce that they were developing their own rival wrestling game, and it'll be interesting to see how that pans out now, given what has happened to the 2K franchise since then. This turn of events led to Visual Concepts becoming the new developer for the franchise, and after all these shakeups, they now found themselves with only a few months to create the next entry in the series, as there was a strict winter 2019 deadline for its release. A lot of the issues with WWE 2K20 appear to have arisen out of this fact. We're sure Visual Concepts didn't want to release a bad game and would have been happy to take a bit more time to make sure the title was up to scratch, but they didn't have that luxury as WWE were reportedly adamant about it not being delayed. Whatever the reasons, it was clear that the mammoth task was too much for the developers to handle despite their best attempts to spin it positively in the media. Creative director Lionel Jinks talked about how the separation from Yuke's was liberating for the series, adding, "Every system in the game, every piece of code, and every art asset had to go through our pipeline, had to go through us, and it was our responsibility to make sure we understood everything that we're putting in the game from front to back, right? And this is 20 years of just Yuke's code, Yuke's art, Yuke's pipelines that we had to take apart and understand. Not only understand, but make it ours and try to make it better at the same time, or make it as good as it was." There are a few key phrases in this statement that should have sent alarm bells ringing for fans. The fact that they had to take apart Yuke's code and try to understand it from the base level was concerning, considering how quickly the game's release date was coming, and it was also a worrying sight that Visual Concepts clearly were not familiar enough with what they were working with, and were clearly out of their depth to build a good game. In their defense, the task that they were given was beyond anything they could have reasonably been expected to do. They simply didn't have the time required to break the game down and rebuild it from the ground up again. As the build-up to WWE 2K20's release began, further warning signs presented themselves to the public as fan sites and YouTubers noted the lack of info being released, suggesting that there was something developers were hiding from us. These fears were confirmed when the game was finally released on October 22, 2019, to unanimously terrible reviews. Critics panned the game for its poor physics and targeting, graphical downgrades from previous entries, changing controls, an array of glitches amongst many other things. The glitches in particular were so bad that angry fans quickly flooded Twitter and turned the game into an unfortunate meme. IGN's review is especially cutting, saying that WWE 2K19 looked like it stopped the downward trend for the series, but WWE 2K20 doubles back, breaks its ankle and tumbles down the slope. Due to the poor word of mouth, sales soon tumbled, and it wasn't long before the game was regularly seen being sold in the bargain bin at reduced prices in a desperate attempt to offload copies. In comparison to previous entries in the series, it was considered a flop in terms of units shifted. While first week sales had been regularly dropping since the release of 2K15, 37% overall over a 5-year period in fact, 2K20 managed to fall even lower, and it only got worse as time went on. Several game review sites listed it as their worst game of the year, and WWE quickly distanced themselves from it, barely mentioning it on any of their programming after its release. It wasn't even just the gameplay itself that was causing issues. Some fans complained that they didn't even receive the promised autographs from WWE Hall of Famer Edge after buying the $130 commemorative edition, forcing the Rated R superstar to take to Twitter and pledge to make good with those fans by sending them autographs himself. The fact that he had to do this because Visual Concepts wasn't able to was just further embarrassment on top of what was already fast becoming a nightmare, and it didn't get any better from there. Patches were quickly released in a last-ditch effort to save the game, but they only solved some of the problems, and by then it was too late anyway. It was dead, and all the developers could do was to try and weather the bad PR storm it had created. Even when it looked as though 2K20 might finally reach a point where it was at least playable, the embarrassment kept coming as it would end up crashing on all consoles on January 1st, 2020 due to what was labelled the Y2K20 bug, where the game wouldn't register the changes in the calendar year, causing the whole thing to stop working. To their credit, this was quickly fixed by Visual Concepts, but it didn't matter because the news was already out there. You would be mad to shell out your hard-earned cash on the game by this point, people said, and Sony were even offering refunds for PS4 gamers who felt they had been conned by their purchase. So toxic was the public perception of 2K20 by this point that petitions even started popping up online asking for 2K19's online servers to remain up until the release of 2K21 so that gamers didn't need to play the current entry in the series. The damage was irreparable. It was so bad that multiple developers were reported to have quit Visual Concepts as they didn't want to be associated with the game and have it damage their chances of future employment. Industry insider Justin Leeper, who had previously worked on the WWE SmackDown vs. Raw series, posted a video on his YouTube channel around this time where he discussed this, quoting one of them as saying, "Man, I don't want this stink on me anymore." It's hard to believe, but things would even get worse from there, as it was soon reported that as a result of the poor sales and worse reception of 2K20, the budget for next year's entry would be severely cut. If true, this will surely only make matters worse, as it would leave Visual Concepts with even less money to try and fix the problems that were there, while also hampering their ability to add anything new to the series. It basically means that if WWE 2K21 comes out when expected around the end of October this year, it will have far fewer features and a variety of gameplay cuts. Given how low the public opinion of the series is right now, they really need to knock the next one out of the park, and this simply may not be possible anymore given what they have to work with. Even a decent glitch-free game won't cut this time, and gamers will likely be even more upset or avoid it altogether in order to not be further disappointed. So with poor sales, terrible reviews, a downsized team at Visual Concepts, reports of a slashed budget, and a positively radioactive public image with almost no one having faith in the series anymore, is there any way to save WWE 2K? Some have suggested that nothing is ever truly dead and that the best way to bounce back from this would be to take a year off, let the heat die down and use that extra time to build a truly great game the WWE fans have been begging for years now. In an ideal world, this would certainly be the case, but the sad reality is that commerce trumps art in these matters, and WWE and its investors will no doubt want to see a new title released annually as it's always been, similar to other sports series like Madden and FIFA. The most likely result is that WWE 2K21 limps to its release date, feeling drastically smaller and lighter than previous entries, and even if it does play well, people will have stopped caring about being burnt so badly last year, leading to sales being terrible once again. If this happens, then it may very well lead to Visual Concepts getting the boot after 2 poor entries, and a new developer being forced to pick up the poison chalice. Perhaps this would be for the best. If another disastrous release kills the series for good and a new developer does take over, then they could just drop the 2K title altogether and build something new without having the stigma attached to it. We certainly hope someone can do something, because as fans, we just want a good WWE video game to sink our teeth into. That shouldn't be too much to ask for now, should it? But there you have it guys, the downfall of the WWE 2K series. If 2K21 comes out this year in October, will you still buy it? Let us know your comments down below, subscribe if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and I'll see you next time with some more video game content.